Alrighty, so just welcome to the Benjamin Gilman Scholarship session today. Just to go over some logistics, please note that this session will be recorded. Keep yourself muted during the presentation. There will be an opportunity to ask some questions towards the end. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put your questions in the chat. And this recording will be available on our website at some point after the expo is over. Okay. All right. So my name is Juim Kim. I am the study abroad advisor at Cal State Fullerton, and I'm actually also the Benjamin Gilman advisor, study abroad advisor, specifically for the scholarship here at Cal State Fullerton. So I'm the person that typically certifies all the Gilman applications. After students submit the application to Gilman, I have to log into the application and certify that you are indeed applying to these study abroad programs. So you will be working with me very closely throughout the process. So yeah, I'll just kind of take this time to go over the program with you. So the Benjamin Gilman Scholarship is a program of the U.S. Department of State with funding provided by the U.S. government and has administered by the Institute of International Education, IIE for short. And this program, the inception date was actually 2001. The Gilman Scholarship has become the largest U.S. undergraduate scholarship program supporting U.S. students of high financial need to participate in study abroad programs and in international internships. So Gilman is one of the many vehicles to help students go abroad through scholarships. However, it is much more than just a scholarship. It is now a program. It is the access to a life-changing experience, an opportunity for students to give back to their fellow students through a follow-on service project to students like you, and to become a part of a legacy that will continue to give them ongoing opportunities back to you. And I'll kind of explain what the follow-on service project is shortly. All right, so the Gilman Scholarship is sponsored by the Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs, or ECA, in the U.S. Department of State. ECA leads a wide range of academic, professional, and cultural exchanges with the goal of increasing mutual understanding and respect between the people of the United States and the people of other countries. And the Gilman Scholarship is one of the many programs sponsored by the ECA, and the Gilman Scholars become a part of a really unique network of approximately 40,000 people who participated in the ECA programs every year. So Gilman is within the Office of USA Study Abroad, which is committed to shaping and sustaining more peaceful, prosperous, and just world by increasing and diversifying participation in study abroad. And you can visit the website for more information. So by supporting undergraduate students who have high financial need, the program has been successful in supporting students who have been historically underrepresented in education abroad, including, but not limited to, first-generation college students, students in STEM fields, ethnic minority students, students with disabilities, students attending HBCUs or other minority serving institution, and Cal State Fullerton is a HSI, a Hispanic Serving Institute, and students attending community colleges and students coming from US states with less study abroad participation. Since the program's inception in 2001, more than 33,000 bright, ambitious, and diverse American students have received a Gilman Scholarship to study or intern in more than 150 countries and hail from more than 1,300 universities across the nation. So the Gilman program engages with public and private sector partners to increase participation. For the entire academic year, the Gilman will award over 3,000 scholarships, including awards for the inaugural Gilman McCain Scholarship and awards associated with our government partnerships. The new Gilman FLAD Portugal Scholarship, and there's also a new one called the Gilman Global Wales Scholarship, the Gilman Education New Zealand Scholarship, and there's also a Gilman France Scholarship. So recipients can receive up to $5,000 to use towards program cost and related expenses, such as tuition and fees, room and board, books, local transportation, health insurance, international airfare, passport and visa. Personal expenses such as clothing, entertainment, electronics, and excursions outside of the program are not eligible. So award amounts, the award that students receive will vary depending on the student need, the strength of the application, and the program cost. Students can apply the scholarship toward a fall, spring, summer, winter, or academic year term program. The Gilman is often asked by students, what are the chances of actually receiving a scholarship? Generally, 1 in 4 students are awarded a scholarship. So actually last term, we had about 6 or 7 students that applied for the Gilman Scholarship at Cal State Fullerton, and all students that applied received a scholarship, which was a phenomenal. I don't think we've ever had that. So yeah, I think last term it was a very lucky and really great group of students that applied, and they all received an award. So there's applicants who are studying a critical need language in a country in which the language is predominantly spoken can apply for a supplemental award of up to $3,000 for a combined total of up to $8,000. So if you are planning on going abroad to study one of these critical languages, there's an additional essay that you can complete and be considered for an additional $3,000. Yeah, so this here you can see all the languages. So even last semester we had a student that applied for this, and she also received some funds towards her program for the language portions of things. In addition to receiving additional funds for language studies, students who win the award and complete their Gilman Scholarship requirements will be offered the opportunity to take the ACTFL or Oral Proficiency Interview, OPI for short. This test and the results will serve as both an evaluation measure of the award and as a credential of the award recipient. So if you are a student that's studying a language, I think you know what I'm talking about. So there's some benefits from also receiving the award. So to be eligible for a Gilman Scholarship, an applicant must be a U.S. citizen, a citizen of the United States, an undergraduate student in good academic standing at an accredited institution of higher education in the United States, including both 2-year or 4-year institutions. You also need to be receiving a federal Pell Grant during the time of application, or provide proof that they will be receiving a Pell Grant during the term of their study abroad program or internship. So let's say you receive a Pell Grant right now, but you're not going to receive a Pell Grant when you plan on studying abroad, then you wouldn't be eligible, and vice versa. Let's say you don't get anything now, but the term when you do plan on going abroad, if you do receive a Pell Grant, then you are eligible. So that does matter. In the process of applying to or accepted for a study abroad or internship program or virtual international program of at least 2 weeks for community college, and then if you're attending a 4-year institution, your program has to be at least 3 weeks long and eligible for credit from the student's home institution. So it needs to be a credit-bearing program. And then if you are doing a multi-country program, those are allowed now. Proof of program acceptance is required prior to award disbursement. So you do need to show that you've actually been admitted to the program that you're applying to. And there's more students coming in. Applying for credit-bearing study abroad programs in a country or area with an overall travel advisory level of 1 or 2. So basically, if you go to the US State Department and look up the country that you want to study at, you will see what the travel advisory is. So depending on where the level is, it needs to be in a country where the travel advisory level is 1 and 2. If it's 3 or 4, then you wouldn't be eligible for the Gilman Scholarship. So basically, I mean, they want you to go somewhere where it's safe, right? However, certain locations within these countries or areas may be designated within the travel advisory as either do not travel, which is the travel level 4, or reconsider travel, and that's level 3. locations. As such, students will not be allowed to travel to these specific locations. Moreover, students are not eligible to apply for programs in the country or area with an overall level 3 or 4 travel advisory, right? So for example, you might be able to go to a country, but you know, maybe like in Thailand, but you're not allowed to go to a specific city in a certain area of Thailand because it's considered dangerous, right? So sometimes that does happen where, you know, you may be able to go to one part of Thailand, but maybe not the other part. But yeah, so basically, you know, the country that you select can't be considered level 3, which is reconsider travel, or level 4, which is do not travel. Alrighty. Okay, let's talk about virtual programs. Okay, so the virtual program is definitely a new thing this past year because of everything that's been going on. So Gilman recipients can use their Gilman scholarship funds to pay for credit-bearing virtual study abroad or international internship programs that take place between May 1st of this year and April 30th of 2022. So for instance, we have a student right now that is doing a virtual internship, and she received a Gilman last term and she's using it towards this program. So it's working out really nicely for her. So at this time, selected students with programs starting in May 2021 will have the option to either defer to an in-person program starting between May 1st and April 30th of next year, or you can select a credit-bearing virtual international program taking place between the same term, May 1st, 21 to April 30th of next 22. The following options are considered eligible virtual abroad programs, all of which must be credit bearing. So for example, like if you're planning on doing a virtual program at Cal State Fullerton, I mean, that's not considered an international experience, unfortunately. So you can't apply it towards taking an online class at Cal State Fullerton, right? So in order for the virtual program to be eligible, it has to be an online course at an institution based outside of the US, or it needs to be a direct enrollment, an exchange program, or a program provider, like a Cal State Fullerton, like a study abroad company. You can also do a virtual faculty-led study abroad program. We are planning one this summer to Mexico through the Humanities and Social Sciences Department. So, and they're actually doing a session, I believe, today at 4:30 if you want to check that out. You can also do a virtual international internship. So, you know, you're working with a foreign company. And then there's also virtual intensive language programs at an institution based outside of the US. Or students may also propose internationally focused virtual programs for review by Gilman program staff. So I think you kind of get the idea that your program kind of needs to be outside of the US. Okay. Great. Let's talk about the Gilman McCain Scholarship really quickly. This is a fairly like a newer scholarship like maybe rolled out a couple years ago. So this is the U.S. Department of State's Gilman McCain Scholarship, which provides awards of $5,000 for child dependents of active duty service members to study or intern abroad on credit-bearing programs. So this was developed under the framework of the State Department's Benjamin Gilman International Scholarship Program and the John McCain International Scholarship for the children of military families. So this is open to eligible students enrolled at accredited U.S. colleges and universities who receive any type of Title for federal financial aid. Applications are being accepted now on a rolling basis, right? So if you want to apply, you have to go and use the Gilman McCain application system. So there's a specific application for that. And you will be required to upload a copy of your military dependent ID to submit the application. So you need to show proof that you're actually a child dependent of an active duty service member. So besides being a child dependent of an active duty service member and having any type of Title IV federal financial aid, all other eligibility requirements are the same as the Gilman Scholarship, right? So same thing, everything that we just talked about applies to you, but in addition to all of that, you need to receive this the Title IV federal financial aid and just show proof that you're a dependent child of an active duty military member, which is pretty neat. Alrighty, let's move on. Okay, so So there might be some confusion about the similarities and the differences between the Gilman and the Gilman-McCain scholarships. So just to make them a little bit more distinct, I can go through the comparison chart here. So there are no differences in the selection criteria, essays and the current deadlines, advisor certifications, and the benefits such as non-competitive eligibility status are all the same. And the main differences between these two scholarships are the eligibility requirements, which are reviewed or which we just talked about. The application site is on a different web page, and students need to upload the child-dependent documentation to the application. And the Gilman-McCain applications are reviewed in separate selection panels. So it's like different people that review those specific scholarships. And this award is a flat 5,000 instead of up to 5,000. So if you get selected, you are guaranteed to get $5,000. For the general Gilman scholarship, it could be up to 5,000. So it may be 1,500, it could be 3,000, it could be 4,500, 5,000. The max is 5,000, right? So that's the distinction between these two. And there are only 100 of the Gilman-McCain awards for the entire academic year. So they only give out 100. Okay, so let's talk about how to apply for the Gilman Scholarship. So step one, the online application asks for study abroad internship program details. So you have to plug in all the information. So you do need to kind of select one program that you want to apply for. Even if your program changes later on, that's totally fine. You can always go back and let Gilman know that your program changed. But when you apply for when you fill out an application, you do kind of need to know which program that you want to apply for. Okay, so all the program details you need to plug in there. There's 3 essays that you have to write, and then also upload your undergraduate transcript. The Gilman program requires transcripts for applicants' current institution and transcripts from any previous institution attended. So any college or universities you attended after high school, you need to upload to your Gilman application. These transcripts can be official or unofficial. And then I can talk about the 3 essays in the next slide. Okay, the application also requires applicants to select a study abroad advisor and a financial aid advisor within the application. So for the study abroad advisor, you can go ahead and just select me. For the financial aid advisor, honestly, you can just select anybody like that you see on the CSUF selection. There's like, I think there's a handful of them. So, it really doesn't matter who you select. I mean, they should all be able to certify you. And they basically, the reason why they have to certify is they need to just confirm that you actually are a Pell Grant recipient, right? So they need to just confirm that and let Gilman know that you do qualify. And then the step 2 here is once the student has submitted the application, that's when the study abroad advisor and then financial aid advisor would go into your application and certify that all the information is correct. And the deadline of the advisor, we have actually 1 week after the student's deadline. So we get an additional week to review your application. So even if the deadline is like March 2nd, like we do still have more time. So, don't worry, we'll get it done. Okay. So let's talk about the essays. Okay, so the essay is honestly it's key. Like that's what's going to make or break this scholarship. So in your application, you have to submit 2 essays, right? So and 3 if you're applying to the critical need language one as well. But the statement of purpose has a maximum of 7,000 characters, which is roughly about a page and a half. The essays are important because the selection panelists, advisors, and administrators at US campuses, they review the applications, and this is their only way of getting to know who you are and the reasons of studying abroad. So I've actually participated in the panel like numerous times. I've read like hundreds of Gilman applications, and I've selected like students to receive the scholarship. So I'm actually very familiar with the process, and they just read your essays and they rate you based off of the reasons that you give and how well you kind of come across in your essay. So in the application, the Gilman program provides prompts for each essay. So they do kind of give you guidance. They ask you to kind of consider certain questions for you to answer. And then the statement of purpose essay is essentially a personal interview on paper, right? That's essentially what it is. You should talk about the impact of studying abroad on your academic goals. You want to talk about your professional goals and also your personal goals. So how does this program abroad, if you were to participate, how is this going to affect all three things: academic, professional, personal? So you want to try to tie that into your essay. And as well as how the Gilman Scholarship can help you accomplish these goals. Like how is this really going to help you achieve the goals by going abroad? You should also probably touch upon what inspired you to study abroad and what challenges you have faced in studying abroad. So everyone has different reasons, different upbringing, different challenges, and you want to mention that in your essay. So they can describe the knowledge, skills, and experiences that could be drawn on to meet challenges experienced abroad. So they really just want to see, like, okay, what have you experienced in life, and how is that going to apply and help you overcome challenges that you may face when you go abroad, right? So all students applying to the Gilman program have financial needs. So you may speak of this, but elaborate on other challenges you may face in addition to that, right? So financial is always an issue for everybody, right? I mean, everyone receives a Pell Grant, that's a given. But in addition to that, talk about like what other challenges you may face in your life, right? Maybe you're single, a parent, or maybe you have a disability, or I mean, maybe you're the primary caretaker of a loved one in your family. I mean, it could be, it's your story. It's whatever, is you. That's that. So you just want to kind of touch upon that. So yeah. So let me see. Oops. So, yeah, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so the second essay is also very important. This one, so Gilman gives you money, right? If you were to be selected, they also want you to give back. So once you're done with the program, you come back to to your campus, and you have to do the service learning project, like a project. And so there are 2 community impact essays that are both required and equally important in the selection of Gilman Scholarship recipients. We strongly encourage that you read the selection criteria and community impact abroad and students return home on the Gilman website. But the community impact is building mutual understanding essay requires you to answer how you will be a US citizen diplomat as a Gilman scholar while abroad. So how you need to be, you are a representative of the US, of Castle Fullerton, and how are you going to be an ambassador abroad, right? So you need to kind of talk about that and be a diplomat out there. So the key aspects to this essay is how you will be a US representative abroad and how you will seek opportunities to become more culturally engaged and have meaningful interaction with people from different cultures on your abroad program, right? So they want to see how you're going to engage out there, how you're going to interact, how you're going to share like the culture, the US culture and vice versa, like you learn about their culture, right? So they just want you to be a good representative while you're abroad, because I mean, you're representing the Gilman and the US and everybody and everything else. So this one is a maximum of 3,000 words. Yeah, so that's the second essay, the community impact. And the third and then okay. Sorry, did I just show this one? Okay, well, this was the mutual understanding essay one. And then this one is essay number 3. The Gilman and the program sponsor of the U.S. Department of State value the multiplier effect of this program can have on U.S. campuses and communities. So there is a follow-on service project proposal that you need to come up with, which requires you to answer how you will represent the Gilman program upon your return home by requiring you to design a project to promote the Gilman Scholarship. So in this essay, students are asked to map out a potential project for them to complete upon their return to the US that will encourage others to study or intern abroad and spread awareness of the Gilman Scholarship. The project can be completed on their home campus or in their local community, and it must be completed within 6 months of the return to the US. So the key aspects of this essay is how you will be a US representative at home, right? So now you're, this is post you going abroad and you come back home. And how are you going to make this aware of the scholarship to others, to your peers, to others, and the creativity and the feasibility of your follow-on service project. So the most common thing that people will say, like, well, I'll just come back and contact my study abroad office and maybe do a info session for them or something and talk about my experience. I mean, that's like the most common thing, but it needs to be more than that, right? Like that's you need to create, like come up with like a creative way for you to target the communities that you're like closely involved with, right? Or so think about maybe you reach out to, you go back to your high school, maybe you were like super involved in Avid or something, and you want to present to the high school students there and share your experience, it could be, I'm just giving an example, but it should be something like that, right? In addition to the study abroad office, of course, but we definitely want you to come and share your experience, but that's the most common answer. So it needs to be a little bit more creative, I would say. And then the Gilman program advises students to use activities and organizations that they're already involved in as inspiration, like so student clubs, academic departments, and can therefore begin discussion of their project with the key contacts even prior to being awarded the scholarship. So right now might be a good time for you to reach out to your contacts. Maybe it's you're involved in the student club on campus from high school, or here even at Cassie Fulton, or maybe community college. It really doesn't matter where. And reach out to them and see if this is something that you're able to do, if you were to get the award and you come back from studying abroad. We also ask students to consider their audience, right? Tools and timeline when proposing a project for the Gilman Scholarship application. So like being strategic, and you're not just, presenting this to anybody, but like, it's hopefully going to be useful. All right. So all these questions are on the on the application. You can find that. Okay. Now, the critical need language award essay. So if you are studying a language, one of the critical need languages, as explained earlier, applicants who are studying a critical need language while abroad in the country in which the language is predominantly spoken have the option to be considered for the critical need language award. For a supplemental award of up to 3,000. This award is competitive and is offered to a limited number of students each year. To be considered for the Critical Need Language Award, a brief additional essay is required and can be submitted in the same Gilman application. So you don't actually need to create a separate application. It's just part of the Gilman. It gives you an option of submitting a fourth essay. So some key points to keep in mind are, be sure that the language you are studying while abroad is considered a critical need language by the U.S. Department of State. You can see the list of critical need language on the Gilman Scholarship website. Any other language study is not eligible for the Critical Need Language Award. So if you don't see the language that you want to study on the website, then it's not going to be considered. Be sure that you're studying the critical need language in a country where it is predominantly spoken. So if you want to, learn French, like you would need to go to a country where it's predominantly spoken. So explain the level of intensity of your critical need language study while abroad, how studying this language will further your academic and career goals, what your motivations are for learning or improving your language proficiency, and how you will intend to improve your language skills while studying abroad. So this essay is about 2,000 characters. So it is almost 4 o'clock, and I will try to go fast. Okay, so these are the things, so part of the selection criteria, these are the things that the panelists are looking for when they review your application. So the first thing is the impact of program and destination on the student's academic and career trajectory. So obviously, a successful applicant will demonstrate a coherent link between their proposed program about activities in the future academic and or career path, as well as a personal development goal. Students should detail the different aspects of their program and articulate how their participation and receipt of the Gilman Scholarship will support the achievement of their goals. So how will this tie in with your future, right? It can't just be like, oh, I just want to go and travel. And I've always wanted to go to Paris and see the Eiffel Tower and climb up. And I mean, that's not going to be good enough. It needs to be more than that. Okay. Also, the community impact abroad and upon return home. The mission of the U.S. State Department is to increase mutual understanding between the people of the US and the people of other countries. So they want you to be a good representative. They want you to share the, of have that educational and cultural exchange while you're abroad. So that's really important to them. So the Gilman program plays an essential role in achieving this mission because study abroad is a form of diplomacy. Gilman scholars represent the United States as citizen diplomats in their host communities. They reflect a diversity of values, beliefs, and opinions that is fundamental to providing a balanced representation of the United States abroad. So Gilman scholars are expected to contribute to the goal of the building mutual understanding by sharing what it means to be an American, learning about the host culture, and building meaningful relationships. Upon the return to the United States, Gilman scholars have the opportunity to inspire the next wave of students to study or intern abroad through the required FollowOn service project, which we talked about. And then the next is academic preparedness. The U.S. Department of State is committed to ensuring that Gilman scholars are successfully on their programs abroad. A competitive applicant must demonstrate the academic preparedness needed to gain benefit from a study abroad or international internship program. So for example, I mean, you are studying, you're going abroad to study, right? So really think about studying and how, well, maybe you want to talk about the types of classes that you're planning on taking. I've read so many essays where students don't even talk about the academic program. They just talk about the destination and they don't focus on like the actual classes that they plan on taking while they're abroad, right? So remember, this is an academic program, study program. So you want to mention that and tie it in with, how's this going to help you, like with academically, professionally, and how's this going to help you? Yeah, and academic performance, particularly in the applicant's major, is important, though there's no minimum grade point average for participating in the Gilman program. So yeah, GPA is not, there's no like GPA requirement for the Gilman. There's also diversity of background and experience. So the U.S. Department of State Gilman's program seeks participation by the broadest group of American undergraduate students with financial need who will benefit from the knowledge, skills, and experiences they acquire when they study abroad. By supporting students who have high financial need, the program has been successful in supporting students who have been historically underrepresented in the education abroad. So students' knowledge, skills, and personal experiences are considered in the context of the overall impact of the proposed abroad program will have on them, how they will overcome any anticipated challenges during the program, and their ability to be a representative of the United States in the Gilman. So I think you've heard this numerous times that you are a representative of the, of the US while you're abroad. So really here what they're saying is, they don't want a Korean American girl that, that's just like me with the same major, like, they're going to want a diverse group of students that receive the Gilman, right? So, and there, just note the preference should be given to those who have not studied abroad before, right? So that if you've studied abroad numerous times, you might probably not receive priority. They're going to want to give the scholarship to someone who's never had the chance to study abroad. And to veterans, and also to veterans who have served on the active duty in the U.S. Armed Forces, provided their qualifications are approximately equivalent to those of other candidates. Yeah, so they consider things like, first generation college students in the STEM field, racial and ethnic minority students with disabilities, students attending minority serving institutions and community colleges, and students from the U.S. states and institutions with lower study abroad participation and more. So I think in California, we do have lots of students that go abroad, but if you are any of those things that I just mentioned, you should definitely try to highlight that in your essay. All right. So we are kind of over the 4 o'clock mark, I think. Let me see. So if you need to move on to the next session, like feel free to do so. We will upload the recording on our website. Does anyone have any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, but I'm going to move forward if you have time. I'm just going to continue on here. But so the deadline and timeline, is March 2021 is the deadline. If you are planning on studying abroad between May 2021 to April 2022, then the first deadline for you would be March 2nd, right? Which is like in a couple of weeks actually. And so the applications are open and you can apply. And then the advisors, we have until March 9th to certify your application. And then there's actually another, you have another opportunity to apply if your program starts in December 21 to October 22. So if you're planning on going abroad in spring 22, there will be another opportunity for you to apply for the Gilman Scholarship. So if, let's say you apply for the March, you're planning on going abroad spring 22, you apply in March, you don't get it, then you have another chance to reapply in October, right? You can like maybe work on your essay a little bit more, and then you apply, and the deadline is October 5th. Yeah, so now I would like to kind of go over some tips for applicants. So you decided you want to study or intern abroad, and you've determined you're eligible for the Gilman Scholarship, but you know that it's competitive. You might wonder what makes a strong application, right? So the best tip is to begin planning early. You will need to coordinate a lot of information related to your program abroad and your academics at home and your financial and logistical resources, as well as spending time working on your essays and actually completing the application. So there are so many students that will start the application, but they won't actually like complete it and submit it. You will also have to get a hold of your transcripts, especially if you're a transfer student, you attended, took some classes at a community college, you will need to retrieve those transcripts. But luckily they could be unofficial, so you can go ahead and just, download that. Yeah, and then a survey of previous students indicated that it takes an average of 5 to 10 hours to complete the Gilman Scholarship. Okay, on average, that's how much students are spending on the Gilman application. So if you begin planning early, you will be sure to have quality application in way before the last minute. Instead of waiting last minute, spend some time on it. And the way I like to put things into perspective is, many students will be like, oh my gosh, what? There's 3 essays? Like, that's so much work. Like, what are the chances of me actually getting it? Well, the chances of if you were to get it, you can get up to $5,000, and all you needed to do was spend 5 to 10 hours working on your essay, versus working for like a year to save up that amount of money, right? Like working part-time. So like, think about that. Like, if you just spent like a day on your essays, that's all you needed to do to be considered for this Gilman. If you get it, awesome. If you don't, that's okay. At least you tried. So yeah, talk with your advisors. There's lots of resources. Ask people to read your essays, provide feedback, and you should probably write your essays like you should probably fix it and edit it like a few times before you actually submit it. Yeah, let's move on. All right, so yeah. So for the follow-ons, for the follow-on service project, again, think about your community and your local schools, yeah, like who will you reach out to? And again, I just said, if you don't try, like, you're not even going to be considered for the scholarship. So when you become a Gilman Scholar, there are actually lots of benefits too. So when you come back, when you return home, you get to have access to many different benefits and opportunities. So there is a thing called the non-competitive eligibility. And you could probably look this up and read about it. But so alumni of the Gilman program are eligible for 12 months of non-competitive eligibility hiring status with the federal government, with the possibility of extending for up to an additional 2 years if you served in the military, studied at a recognized institution of higher education, or involved in another activity, which in the agency's view warrants an extension. So basically, if you are an individual that wants to work for the federal government one day, like, this is it. Like, you are going to, like, you basically receive like, it's kind of like the veteran status. If you're a veteran, like, you have this non-competitive eligibility. So you basically, you have, like a better chance of actually getting hired in a federal government job if you have this status. So yeah, you can find more information about it on the U.S. Department of State website, which I think is a really great benefit through this program. And then also, if you're also part of the Gilman Scholar Network. You get to connect with one another via a secure and private platform. So the recipients of the Gilman Scholarship can search for other Gilman Scholars and alumni by categories such as location or college, university, country of study, intern abroad, or career industry. So you can connect with these, unique, globally minded Gilman alums. And then you can also even request for a mentorship. Let's say you want to get into a field, you can look up one of them. You could find maybe someone that works in that field, and you can reach out to them and be like, hey, I'm a Gilman alumni scholar too. Like, would you have maybe like 10 minutes? Can I have 10 minutes of your time to do like an informational interview, or something like that? And many of them are totally willing to offer mentorship to younger alumni or new scholars. So the Scholar Network also gives Gilman scholars and alumni access to exclusive job postings. So they share job postings just amongst the Gilman alumni, which I think is really amazing. They have they announce Gilman. There's like event announcements just for alumni, and official Gilman event photos. There's also the Alumni Ambassador Program. You can apply for this program and you serve 1 year as an official representative of the U.S. Department of State's Gilman International Scholarship Program. And then they provide testimonials about the Gilman Scholarship experiences, a campus presentation, and offer application tips via written articles, videos, webinars, and special events. So you can become an alumni ambassador and kind of give back that way. There's also lots of seminars and career workshops that's only available to the Gilman scholars. And then there's also skill development. When you go abroad, you learn new skills such as adapting to change, learning a new language, and how to communicate with others, and much more. So they kind of prep you with all of that. Alrighty, so I think we're kind of wrapping up here. So stay connected with Gilman. They're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Actually, I highly advise you to go to the Gilman website, and they have lots of really helpful video like webinars that you should definitely review and take a look at, which are super helpful. And there's also like a Gilman Global Experience blog where Gilman scholars wrote about their experiences while they were abroad, and you can kind of see what it's like to study abroad by checking that out. Okay. Yeah, again, you want to go to the Gilman Scholarship website. There's also other U.S. government resources out there, the Critical Language Scholarship Program, Fulbright, U.S. and Boren Scholarship. If you want to learn more about that, reach out to me and I can go over it. But there's lots of resources available outside of the Gilman as well that you should definitely look into. Here is some outreach materials. If you want to get that, I'll give you a second. There's the contact information if you have any questions about the Gilman specifically and you want to contact someone from the Gilman. Here's the contact information. And then really the last slide is me. I'm the CSUF Gilman advisor for study abroad. So feel free to reach out to me, joinpm@fullerton.edu. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I know we went that was a lot of information to cover in like 30 minutes. So thank you for sticking around. But yeah, did anyone have any questions?
Yes, I had a quick question.
Mhm.
Okay, if we're